Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Gentlemen, I think we are covering 2 parallel storylines this year, and they're both pretty interesting, but one's probably more important. One is, can this Twins team contend, compete, stay in the race, be interesting all summer long, play relevant games? The other one is, just how good is this group of young players and young pitchers, and did Derek Falvey last summer basically set this franchise up to succeed for the next decade or so? We're talking about this on the day after we got to see Rojas and Prelup make their big league debuts, a few days after Aaron Morris made his big league debut. So let's get into all that here on the Chin Music Show, our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. Roy Smalley, former Twins star, former Twins broadcaster, is star of the show, along with LaVelle Neal III, Star Tribune columnist and baseball guru. I'm Jim Souhan from TalkNorth.com and the Star Tribune as well. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. We're presented to you by Onyx Maps. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities and True Vision Institute. I'll tell you about our sponsors later. So, gentlemen, let's start with you, Roy. What did it mean to you to see Prelup and Rojas go out there in New York City and look like they have as good a stuff as almost any lefties in the league?
Yeah, that was very fun. Yeah, it really was to there's so much going on there. First big league appearances in New York, screaming fans, even though generally speaking, the Mets fans have screamed at the Mets, their own team this year. But I mean, it's New York, it's the whole atmosphere and, iconic Shea Stadium and the whole deal to these young players. And that was some good stuff going up to the plate. It really was. Obviously, there are things that you can nitpick about, but boy, they looked like they were composed and they looked like the stuff was real. And that's exciting. I think the most important thing is the stuff was real. It wasn't they played a bad team or they played a team that was struggling. It's more about the stuff being authentic, in my opinion.
LaVelle?
It was finally good to see Connor Prelup on the mound after all these years and all the talk and the hype. I saw him pitch once in the backfields. The slider was just as advertised. He got swings and misses, several. Actually, I think it was 7 swings and misses with that pitch. Touched 96, 97. Didn't walk a batter, struck out 6. Just a lot of encouraging performance there. And Kenji Rojas apparently is the 4th Twins left-handed starter to touch 98 miles an hour since that became a thing. He ended up walking 2 or 3 guys, but still, you saw the top shelf talent and his ability to change speeds. So these 2 guys are examples of why it would be worth coming into the ballpark and seeing how these guys progress during the summer. Hopefully both of those guys will carve out, Kendry will carve out a spot in the rotation for him to start, and we could kind of just watch these guys work. Now, how many times did we see through the years when a lefty that the Twins had never seen before pops up, gets called up, and dominates? So Rojas and Prelup are going to have a little bit of that going on for a while, but I think they've got top shelf stuff. And it's time for them to see what it's like to get major league hitters out. So I'm looking forward to seeing both these gentlemen pitch going forward. I'm not looking forward to this bullpen because once again yesterday, the Twins were in a tight game and the bullpen let them down. Taylor Rogers ran the count full, walked the guy. Justin Topa ran the count full, walked the guy. He needs to get out. Just needed a ground ball to get out of the inning. Next you know, they scored a decisive run. It was just really painful to watch. And I think that in terms of, Jim, you talked about them being relevant throughout the summer. Those are the things that are going to be a detriment to their chance to be relevant. The defense and that bullpen, man. But It's still worth watching. Prelip, Rojas, the other young guys try to find a way. Luke Keishel, some of these other dudes. So that's what I'm looking forward to this summer.
So Prelip, Morris, Rojas. At this moment, do you think they project more to be rotation guys or bullpen guys? Because one of the ways they could solve this bullpen problem is by bringing up some of the dynamic arms and having them finish games, right?
Yeah, I think if with that kind of stuff, Prelip especially, I mean, he just looks like a starting pitcher to me. I think I kind of think that's what he needs to be. And the Twins, don't have a left-handed starter. I mean, things are all just lining up, for him. Rojas, I would feel the same way about. It might be LaVelle would know more about this than I do. When I look at his stuff, I say, I think, man, bullpen sucks. Put that stuff out there. So it's hard for me to say these guys, this guy or these guys have been starters, in their career. They got to the big leagues with starter stuff. That's been, what they've been doing. And now, immediately because we have a need in the bullpen, we're going to make them bullpen guys. That's a tough call for me. I would say Prelip is a starter. Rojas, I think, is he's on the bubble, not whether he's in the big leagues, but what it is that Twins are going to do with him.
Now, it's interesting, Ray. One of my final interactions with Derek Favre was a few weeks after the trade deadline, and I was trying to explain to him the fire sale in the late 90s and how good came out of that. And Favre responded with this, and this is back, so we're talking like August here, but he goes, Pablo, Ryan, Ober, Matthews, Woods Richardson, Festa, Bradley, Abel, Rojas, Morris. All starters with Major League experience minus Rojas, and he's in AAA now. I think that's the most upper-level pitching talent I've ever had with a group. If those guys progress, as I hope, this could be a really special strength. And then later on, he said, we'll need young position players to step up and retool the bullpen with some of those names above, plus guys like Rhea, Prelip, et cetera, who could be exciting out of the pen. So I think they were thinking the same thing you were as well, as about using some of these guys with upside in the bullpen. Marco Rhea's already been moved to the bullpen for sure. I don't know what they're going to do with Prelip. I'm open to see him as a starter now because of his lack of minor league innings. He probably needs to face as many hitters as possible, and starting is a vehicle for that. All I've seen of Ross is starts. He started last year when he got called up to St. Paul, started doing spring training. I kind of view him as a starter right now until he proves otherwise. But you know what? Those are live-ass arms. So that's why I'm looking forward to seeing these guys pitch in the coming weeks, because we can see and arrive at our own conclusions as to which way the Twins should go with these guys.
When do you think we're going to see Festa?
Well, he had a little bit of a shoulder thing in camp. Once a player, like for instance, they just put Mick Abel on the injury list because of forearm strain. Well, that's at least a month. Now, when you do it to a guy who's in spring training trying to progress, you got to go back to square one and start building him back up. And I'm guessing late May, we can see Festa back in the mix here. I don't have a definitive timetable. He has not been brought up. Recently, I've been in Derek Shelton's office, so I don't know if they have other plans. But I just start my own personal clock. When a pitcher lands on the injury list, it's a month. If it's a shoulder strain or a forearm issue, and we all know forearm issues can end up being something worse, so you have to watch and be careful with that. But the guys who are in camp in March all of a sudden feel the Twins, you have to go all the way back to the beginning and start that progression. Then it's going to be a little longer for those guys. So I'm guessing around May we should start bucking the Twins about when Festa is going to be ready.
By the way, this is, I think, officially our 500th show. So congratulations and thank you to Roy for being with us through the whole thing. Thanks to LaVelle for joining in. Also, we want the show to continue to grow, just as we want the network to continue to grow. We also like doing live shows. So if you have a joint or a friend who owns a bar or a restaurant, and you want us to do a live twin show, you can reach out to Tammy Henderson, our Vice President of Business Development, thenderson@talknorth.com. We'd love to get out in the public and give away some bobbleheads and have some fun with this. So thanks to everyone who's listened over all the years. We do appreciate it. And of course, special thanks to Roy, who was the basis for doing this show because of all of his storytelling and knowledge. And I'm going to lean on that storytelling and knowledge. Ryan Jeffers. So we know Tate is the catcher of the future in the organization. I don't know if there's anybody between Jeffers and Tate. Jeffers looks like his defense has come along nicely over the years. He's great at the ABS stuff. He's one of their better hitters. Do they need to sign Ryan Jeffers to a long-term contract? Let's start with LaVelle.
Ooh, you went there a direction I wasn't anticipating. That's intriguing, though. I think they need to seriously consider it. I think he's a stalwart in that locker room. He's respected. He's good at what he does. You mentioned the ABS. He really tried to embrace the pitch framing era as well. And he can occasionally run into one and hit it over the fence. So he is a veteran starting caliber catcher. I don't think you give up on someone like that without a viable replacement. And we see how hard it is for these major league teams to find capable catching. If Jeffers goes out in the market as a free agent during the offseason next year, he'll be snapped up in a second. He'll have his pick of multiple, at least solid, if not good teams to backstop for. So if I were the Twins, I would seriously consider it. You bring up a good point about how much catching up they have in the Myers. I haven't heard about any other guys other than what's his name, Fernando Taillon, that they received from the Phillies in the Duran trade. So
Taillon,
yes.
I've been saying Tate, but Taillon is the right pronunciation. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. And and that should be a point of emphasis now going forward in the draft, because it's going to take catchers several years to develop. So you need to get some talent in the organization in that position. So meanwhile, don't mess with the top. Jeffers is on the top of the chain right now, and he should be a fixture here going forward.
Let's get Roy's answer to that question. First, we do want to thank Aquarius Home Services.
The Aquarius Home Services and Connecticut Customer Appreciation and Open House event is Friday, May 1st through Sunday, May 3rd. We're talking huge savings, like out of this world, tell your neighbors huge. Save big on heating and cooling systems, water heaters, generators, water treatment systems, and more. Plus, food, prizes, and fun for everyone. It's the Aquarius and Connecticut Open House, May 1st through 3rd in Little Canada at 694 and 35E. Details at aquariushomeservices.com.
Also want to tell you about onxmaps.com/fish. Spring is the right time to explore new water. Fish are moving shallow. Activity is high, and Onyx Fish helps you identify which lakes have the conditions and species you're targeting, including weather tools to know when to go, not just where. It's $34.99 for the year, less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season. Roy, what do you think? What do you think the future is for Jeffers here?
I think you got to sign him. I've got a couple of thoughts in that direction. First of all, there's nobody else. So, nobody else is going to catch, in the next 2 years at least, if not 3. I mean, I just don't see that. If Taillon it turns out to be a stud, then if you've got a backup catcher the caliber of Ryan Jeffers toward the end of his deal, that the value that he is going to have 5 years from now, let's say, as a backup catcher is going to be cheap. They couldn't get a backup catcher of his caliber 3, 4, 5 years from now for whatever money today's dollars translate into, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. If I'm making myself clear, I think I think if you could sign him now, to a deal because you're getting ahead of it early, and maybe you get him a little bit cheaper than you would if in a free agent kind of situation. I think that given the fact that there's nobody else, I agree with LaVelle. I mean, I don't know that that he is top 10 catchers in the league. I don't have any idea, but if he were a free agent, he'd get paid a lot of money. Somebody's going to pay him a lot of money. I think LaBelle's right about that. The other thing is if you sign him to a long-term deal and somehow a catcher comes along, and then he's very tradable because he's got a contract, and it probably the contract that you sign him to today probably makes sense 2 years from now to somebody else to trade for him if they desperately need a catcher. So I don't see a big downside unless he just decided he wanted, $100 million over 4 years. There's an amount that doesn't make sense, but the idea of signing him to a long-term deal, if the dollars make some kind of sense, makes all the sense in the world to me.
And it's my turn to correct myself because it's Eduardo Taiit, not Fernando Taiit. I got him mixed up with Fernando Tatis. So it's Eduardo
Taiit. We got it, and I think everyone will know how to pronounce his name.
And he currently has an 840 OPS. He currently has an 840 OPS at Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a good player. Let's get to the big picture question that I referenced at the beginning of this show. All right, we're almost to May, and the one thing we say about this Twins team is they haven't buried themselves the way some Twins teams do. They're still competitive. The division does not look great at the moment. Is there real hope for this team being competitive and contending all season? Let's start with Roy.
I think it's tough to make the call that they're going to contend. I mean, it really is with all the things that with the two main things that LaVelle talked about, the bullpen currently and the defense. I'm also a bit frustrated with the at-bats that I'm seeing from a number of guys that are pretty key to this team having an offense that can contend. Even if the pitching would have to be, the young kids would have to, just fill up the starting rotation and fill up the bullpen and be out and be great. Everybody be great for them to carry what looks like an offense that's not going to be too formidable. So I think, again, back to what LaVelle kind of was alluding to, I think there's a lot of reasons. If you can be a Twins fan and go out to the ballpark and say, I'm a baseball fan, I'm going to watch some really great young kids play ball. I'm going to see great performances from Pralip and from Rojas and from Buxton and hopefully a few other from Joe Ryan. I'm going to watch some good baseball and guys do some really good things. If they don't win, I'm not going to be mad at the Polads and never come back. I'm going to watch some good baseball and some good kids. I think watching young kids develop is really fun. Watching them play in the big leagues and do well is really fun. Of course, we all want them to win. I think they're going to stay. I don't think they're going to bury themselves, to your point, Jim. I don't think it's going to be awful. But, win 90 games, it's hard for me to say that right now.
Yeah. I have my concerns, but I will say this at least. I agree with Roy. There's some hitters there whose approaches are kind of troubling for me. Wallner actually had some good at bats. I want to see either yesterday or
I think it was last night he had pretty good bats.
Yeah, he had a couple good at bats, and that's a good start for him because he has struck out 36 times in 22 games already. He leads the majors as strikeouts. Jeffers is swinging it well. Austin Martin, man, he's making me a believer that he should be in the lineup every day, regardless if it's lefty or righty. He actually leads the Twins in WAR. He leads the Twins position players in WAR right now. So he's doing some good things. Keisho flustered me yesterday. He came up, I believe the bases were loaded late in the game, and he just kept chasing out of the strike zone. I was waiting for him to kind of check himself and get the the count back in his favor, but he kept hacking away. I think he ended up swinging at a almost a neck high fastball, popped it up, they ended up popping out in foul territory. So you got some of that going on. Brooks Lee's still trying to find his way. Royce is just coming back from injury. Before this trip to New York, I knew the Twins. I saw the Twins were like kind of middle of the package in terms of run production. I think their upside is that they could be slightly above average, especially if some of these other guys I just mentioned get going. And as soon as the Twins come to their senses and do something about James Outman, who is batting .091 right now, and is basically a pitch runner, and take a look at these other guys. Emmanuel Rodriguez is hitting like 108-mile-an-hour home runs at AAA, and I kind of want to. Part of me wants to see him now before he gets hurt again. So I think the offense still has potential of being functional. The starting pitch is going to keep this team in games. I mean, even when Ober and Woods have been off, it hasn't been a total disaster. They're kind of figuring a way out to be capable. But they're going to have to address this bullpen. If they're somehow in a good standing in the division when you get to like June or mid-June, they got to start sniffing around some relievers or making some hard decisions about whether to use Pralep or Rojas out of that bullpen or trusting Marco Rea. They're not going to be able to fix their defense this year. They're not. So, yeah, this team has warts, man. And in baseball, your warts are exposed over a 162-game schedule. At the same time, good starting pitch can cover up some of that, but eventually it pops out here. So I think they could make things slightly interesting, but if you're going to ask me, can the Twins win like 85 games? I'm like, yeek, I don't see it. They could maybe get to 80, which I think would be an achievement given that everybody thought their over-under going into the season was 72 and a half games. But I'm going to be skeptical, but I'm going to be attentive.
LaVelle, the one thing about that it pops out to me, what you're saying, I get about Outman, I get that, and I get about the kid in AAA that's pounding the ball. Where and when's he going to play? You bring him up here. What are you going to do? He's got to play. He's got to play every day. You can't bring him up here and platoon him with Larnach or Wallner. So you're going to sit Austin Martin? You're going to sit Wallner? Is it give up on Wallner and say, okay, you've had your chance. This kid deserves a chance. That's the thing that with these young kids, that's the biggest problem is, yeah, they're great, and you got guys up here that aren't doing great. And but if you bring one of those kids up, like especially one of your guys you're really counting on to be a stud, then he's got to play. I just hate the idea. He deserves to be in the big league, so we're going to come give him a few at bats here and there. I hate that. Either he's worked his way into we want him and not him. He's got to play every day, and Walter's not, or Austin Martin's not, or whatever. But if you're not ready to do that, then leave him down there and let him continue pounding the ball until it's clear to you that Walter's not going to make it, or that Austin Martin's got to play somewhere else, or so. I hate the idea of bringing him up here and have him sit around it for a bat or two, a start here and there. I hate it, and I hate bringing him up here to platoon right away too.
I wouldn't want to do that either. I would just find some way. And I just look, Larnach's actually performing fairly well. He's not hitting for power, but he's being useful at the plate. And I believe they have Gabby Gonzalez playing first base at St. Paul now, which is something worth watching because the Twins don't have a first baseman. Josh Bell's a DH. I was thinking Emo can possibly be playing the outfield one day and DH the next day, but then that affects Josh Bell, and Bell should not be at first base. So there's some hurdles to my plan to juice up the offense, definitely. But I think once you get through the end of May, you got to start making some adjustments. And if you need to move some guys, you got to move some guys. And I'm not saying move Martin. Outman's out of options. I don't know why he's up here now, but you got to figure out some things here, especially if the team is hovering around respectability.
Well, as Roy pointed out, what you can't have is the double jeopardy of, Warner's struggled, and this might be his last couple of months to prove that he's an everyday major leaguer.
Mm-hmm.
Problem is, let's say you say, okay, it's April 24th, tired of what I'm seeing, I'm cutting Wallner. Then you bring up Emma Rodriguez, and Emma isn't ready yet. And I always remind people, took Torrey Hunter and Justin Morneau a combined 12 times up and down between the minors and the majors before they figured it out. They did not get it right away. Okay, you cut Warner, you bring up Emma Rodriguez. He proves to not be ready. You send him down. Now what? I mean, you got to make sure if you're going to make a dramatic move to create space for somebody, you got to be sure he's ready. And there's really no way of being sure they're ready, unless they've really just proved themselves over a long period of time in the minors.
I wouldn't mind cycling through all those outfielders at St. Paul if Elmo comes up and struggles. The key is to keep it healthy.
That's something you could do.
Walker Jenkins just got healthy, and I think he just got over an illness too. And Gonzalez is usually an outfielder, but he's messing around at first base. My goodness, they had Kyler Fetko at second because the flu bug that the Timberwolves have now apparently hit the Saints. So it must be a Minnesota thing because
hit me like a couple weeks ago, if you remember my voice.
So they had to put Fetko at second base. He had never played in the middle infield at all as a minor leaguer. So those hurdles are out there as well.
Let's take care of some other sponsors. We want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Here's Talk North star John Krasinski for True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington is the place to go for your vision correction needs. Go to truevision.com, set up a free consultation, go on into the folks at True Vision and just enjoy the hospitality and enjoy the education that you get in terms of the options that you have for vision correction. I had LASIK surgery at True Vision almost 2 years ago. It was an incredible experience. They bring you in. You're in and out of there very quickly, and within hours, you're seeing as clearly as I've ever seen. I have no need for the hassles of glasses and contacts anymore. And just life is smoother, life is easier since I went to True Vision. So go to truevision.com and set up your consultation and then go through the motions. And by the end of it, when you come out of there, you will be saying, I should have done this 10 years ago, just like I did. True Vision, truevision.com.
All right, let's get, we have to at least make mention of this, and we'll move on to the Booze and Blues segment. This is a bad week to believe that payroll size guarantees success. The Mets are god awful. And what are they spending? $360 million?
That coach is going to that manager is going to get fired too.
Yes.
Yeah, they look bad, and they thought they had chemistry issues in the clubhouse last year. And that's why Brandon Nimble's gone. And they didn't bring back Diaz, the closer. Oh, Diaz is injured. He's injured with the Dodgers. He's making $20 million this year. And Alonso. And, that really struck a nerve with the fan base because they thought Pete Alonso should be their first baseman for life. Well, It hasn't worked. So whose fault is that? You can get mad at the manager Mendoza, but how about the GM that activated all this?
Well, it's always the same story, isn't it? I mean, it's always the same story. I mean, managers now have gotten to, it's almost as bad as hitting coaches, in terms of misplaced blame. Manager didn't do anything. They presented with these players and jettisoned some other players that made a lot of sense for the club to have from a performance standpoint. And now you open the season and your best player, your star, your potential Hall of Fame hitter is hurt. He's not playing. Soto's, just coming back, from the IL. And Lindor's been so, and nobody else is doing anything. And then, that manager's doing a shitty job. Pardon me, a lousy. I get a little passionate about this. A lousy job in the clubhouse, evidently. Because you got to be kidding me. They're not playing. This was not a when to use the right guy out of the bullpen by a manager decision standpoint. This is they're playing sucky, and the players that are playing sucky were not determined by the manager.
And that's why I really like Derek Falvey, and I think he did a lot of good things here. I did hate the fact that, okay, you collapse, you better fire the hitting coach. Well, Popkins was not the problem. It became very clear he was not the problem. And, okay, well, you collapse again. You got to get rid of the manager. Well, Rocco had nothing. I don't think Rocco had anything to do with last year's failure either. I hate the scapegoating, and those guys are going to be the victims of the scapegoating.
Yeah,
no question about it. And I would just make one last comment about that, and I won't interrupt you, LaVelle. But if someone wanted to get me back in baseball, which they won't, but if someone were to come to me and said, "You can have your dream job. Here's a genie. You get one wish. You can come back in baseball, make a whole bunch of money on a coaching staff somewhere. What would you like to be?" And I said, "I'll be the hitting coach of the Dodgers or the Blue Jays."
There you go.
Or the assistant hitting coach, because they don't get fired. The hitting coach gets fired. Well, actually, they can.
No, yeah, I mean, this is the genie. They're going to pay me a lot of money to be the hitting coach for these people, and then if they fire me, they're going to pay me anyway.
I think you'd do good work with Ohtani.
I could fix him. He's all messed up right now.
Yes. Swing at pitches in the strike zone, Shohei, please. Oh, you already do? Good. Well, then, we're done here. Let's get to our Booze and Blues segment. Good baseball stuff. Thank you, guys. I'll start off the Booze and Blues segment this week by explaining that I have changed my entire attitude toward music and the hierarchy of music, and it happened during COVID. Before COVID, I was kind of a music snob. It's like somebody would tell me they listen to this band or that band, and I'd kind of sneer at them. I felt like in COVID, everybody was so desperate to have something they could turn on to calm their nerves or make themselves feel good under those circumstances that you want to listen to Nickelback, go ahead. You want to listen to NSYNC, go ahead. And if that's what does it for you, go right ahead. I will never ridicule anybody else's musical taste ever again, except for LaVelle's.
Yeah, if that's your jam, that's your jam. Well, Mine is this, not necessarily blues, but I just think we have to pour one out for the end of the Basilica Block Party, which was recorded yesterday. A lot of acts have played at that during that celebration of music. Weezer, Jayhawks, Goo Goo Dolls, Brandy Carlisle, Ryan Adams. Through the years, it's always been a smash hit. Drew huge crowds to the Basilica. We thought they were going to bring it back in 2026, and it was just learned yesterday that they're not going to bring it back again. So maybe someone will pick up the ball. But it seemed like it was a great event that showcased downtown Minneapolis in a really cool backdrop of that wonderful building, the Basilica, which is actually being renovated this year. I wonder if that's one of the reasons too. But here's the Basilica Block Party, man. A great annual event that is no more.
Got anything, Roy?
No, amen to that. I mean, that's been an iconic event, and hopefully some way to do that again. I mean, I think that's been one of the things that kind of set the Twin Cities apart. Those are the kinds of things that are done had been done well. So hopefully somebody will pick that up. And I'm gonna applaud you for your newfound sanguinity about
newfound sanguinity. That might be my band's
amenability and amenability about
and
lack of cynicism. I think that's great. I think people ought to listen to whoever it is that they want to listen to, unless it's Michael Bolton, and then I'll never speak to you again.
And you can listen to whatever you want. Just turn it up so loud that I have to listen to it as well.
I love it. Good stuff. And thank you, LaVelle, for mentioning the Jayhawks. Mark Perlman, the bass player. I used to play basketball with Mark. We were friends a long time. Gary Luris, got to know him really well. And I love that band. I love those people. And they contributed their music to be kind of the soundtrack of this network. I'll always appreciate that. Great band, still playing. Gary Luris is still doing a lot of solo stuff these days. So if you ever get a chance to listen to either the Jayhawks or Gary Luris, they're just great artists and great people. So that's it for Chin Music. Pardon me?
Was Perlman part of the Tuesday, Thursday games at St. Thomas?
Yes.
He was? Wow.
Well, I'm not sure at St. Thomas. I remember playing with him over at the Longfellow Gym when I first got to town. That was before you got here.
All right.
But yeah, just great guy, great bass player, and still a Minneapolis resident. So once again, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We'll start the new 500 next week.